I have a question for Carla. Are you
Ready.
there, Carla?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
So in all your years of playing with the national team, and correct me if I'm wrong, Team Canada usually ran 4 lines, correct?
In my playing days, 100% correct.
And the US did not.
Not the same. No.
Not the same. Have you as players talked about that? How are you guys feeling 4 lines, and what was the when the coach left and the real conversation began? What was the conversation about 4 lines, and what did the girls feel like? Did they feel like you guys can get more out of the team by sometimes running 2 or 3 lines and or not, or you guys believe, hey, no, we're gonna go with 4 and that's the way we do it and we'll win? What was the whole, from a player perspective, how did you experience it?
Well, I think in some capacity as a defenseman, it's a unique experience. We kind of dissociate from the forwards in that entity, and this conversation really more times than not is forward based, right? Like there's just more variables up there that factor in. But I like in my when I look back to my day, I don't recall that ever being a massive focus for our conversations. I don't recall it being a concern. Now, it's not to say that maybe within lines or within things that wasn't talked about. There are certainly players that wanted more ice time always, but you knew that. But, like I look at our Vancouver final, like all 4 lines played and our goals were scored by our 4th line, both of them. So, I think that I'll give Mel a lot of credit that way. Like she shaped us to believe that we could all play and all be a part of it, and that's against the US. We have the luxury against the other teams of not having to really stress about that, right? So there's a bit of it's different, I think, than when you're coaching Czech or we're with a team that's trying to chase that top group. We were the top group, so I think we had some luxury that way. And really, at those Olympics, only had 2 real competitive games: semifinal and final. But I don't recall the behind the scenes banter very negative at all in that, because of 4 lines. I didn't feel that, but again, somebody else's take could be quite different than mine.
Yeah. And,
when
and
you
Tim,
asked
Tim and Wally, how you guys were the coaches for Team Canada?
Yeah, I'd like to speak to your question, Thomas, because I think it's very relevant. It's one thing to talk about Team Canada and the depth and the balance, the spread between the so-called first and 4th line. I don't recall using the terminology 1st and 4th line. And I was an assistant coach, so it never dawned on me. I thought of everybody being valued. I realized there was people who were far better at offensive situations than others. But it's really, I think you have to relate to your Czech team relative to the chemistry and the depth of it. And to what degree do you focus on development and belief in everyone to contribute, and change the attitude of that one player to say something like that, not realizing what you did. That's, to me, the problem with the game. The players have to appreciate the life lesson of what you achieved and not react like that. But here's what happened with the national team. In 2002, I wouldn't have taken the job unless they agreed to play everyone in the first half year. I made it clear. And I said in the second half, they had to create 10 power play people and 10 PK people. Done. And that became the embedded philosophy of the team, because I sort of became the head scout and a self-proclaimed director of coach development throughout Canada with the branches. And I tried to encourage all of our staffs to follow that philosophy because it had success in 2002. And Mel was there. And she carried on for till 2010. And I believe the outcomes speak for themselves. In Sochi, they pulled a rabbit out of the hat, but they did shorten the bench. And they did win by shortening the bench. But when I see the same people on power play and PK at that level, I think that that's when you're losing belief in some players on your team. So that's my philosophy. I believe the result of that philosophy is why the team won consecutive Olympic championships. And this recent victory it's just tremendous. But I really believe the team can be much better than it is in terms of the total complete game that can be played today. So that's all I've got to comment. I know, Carla, if you have anything to add, or Tim, you went to Torino. That was the best performance by any of our teams in Olympic competition. The only one that I would equate to it is the Team Canada men in Sochi. But that, as far as the female hockey performance, was by far the unbelievable performance. Tim, anything to add?
Well, thanks, Wally. It was indeed a terrific year, and Carla was part of that group. And Carla knows well that, Mel did really a tremendous job at preparing the group, everybody, for the potential of playing on the power play, penalty killing, or in a reduced role. Like, we used everybody for sure, but all the way through the year, she had a plan, and, we're playing Medicine Hat, midget AAAs on Friday. Line 1 and line 2, you're on the power play. Line 3 and 4, you're going to take on the bulk of the penalty killing role. Carla, you and Stubbs are going to be on the power play with Becky and Poundy, but the other two, you're going to be primarily penalty killers. So she divided the tasks extremely well, used the bulk of the season to prepare everybody to play every role, and to get a glimpse at people when they were in reduced roles. Did their performance drop off or not? Could they perform in that situation? It was really valuable information for us when we're trying to pick a group to, go for that short-term competition. So it's kind of that philosophy that you espouse, Wally, that really, for all developmental teams like midget AAA and below, you really, for the player's own individual sake and for the team's overall collective well-being, it's really helpful and useful to prepare people and help them feel comfortable in case they need to go in on the power play at some point. You have an injury, you have a couple of penalties where you don't have a couple of your best people. Like, you really don't want, as a team, to have to throw Carla out in the power play if Carla has never seen the power play and never practiced it at practice, and she's not really even comfortable being out there, even if she wants to be out there. You want her to be comfortable. You want to provide her an environment where she feels like she can be successful. So of course you need to manage your bench and everything. And it's always a tough one with practice time. Like, I always advocate when we're practicing power play, penalty killing, let everybody get a taste of it. Let everybody, help everybody understand what you're trying to do and what's expected. Because, even if it's not your philosophy, you absolutely need your 2 or 3 or 4 best forwards killing penalties in some situations. Even if that's not your philosophy, it could be forced on you by the dynamics of the game. You don't want your 2 best forwards sitting on the bench for like the U.S. Like in Thomas's situation, 5-minute major in a critical game. You don't want your two best forwards sitting on the bench for the last 5 minutes of the second period, then 15, 18 minutes in the intermission. They need to be involved. So even if they're not, sort of primary penalty killers, they need to be able to kill penalties to keep them in the game. So educating everybody and then deploying them based on effort, attitude, your Cardinals, Wally, it's an important piece of that art of coaching puzzle, which really benefits the players individually, developmentally, and it really benefits the team as a whole as well. But then the difficulty, last thought, is selling that approach, like Thomas was saying, to all the players, and that's hard. And people are people, and some people you'll never convince, I guess. And I guess we all have to watch out for them, and maybe they don't really have a place on the team. It's tough.
I just want to quickly add to that, and it's a big difference. That for me, huge learning. It's, do you coach a club team and you are with them every single day? Or do you coach a national team and you see them for a week every 2 months, or worse, 3 months? Very, very, and in Carla's case, Canada being centralized for the whole year, or Tim and Wally, and being able to go through what you guys went through with Mel, I felt that we really, because of COVID, what Tom was mentioning, we really missed that exhibition game season, and everybody did. It's not an excuse, but especially in those cases, to prepare the team mentally, what you expect from them and how it feels actually. One thing is to talk about it, but how it actually feels when the plan comes to fruition during the game. Okay, here I'm on penalty kill, here I'm a fourth line, here I play a lot. It's a very different story to talk about it, to show it on video, and then actually truly live it in the game. So great comments, guys. I just wanted to shortly intersect, and for me as a national team coach, very different than coaching somebody every day.
Yeah, it really is, Thomas, a different challenge when we know we each saw our own groups for maybe a week or 10 days, couple, 3-4 times a year sort of thing. It's a huge advantage to Canada and the US to have the money to centralize in the Olympic years in particular. And I know Peter has really thrown out the idea that, is there not a way to, for the good of the game, to find a way for USA Hockey and Hockey Canada to share some funding with, even if it's just the A-pool federations, to maybe help them be more able to do some centralization, maybe not a complete one, but even, a month-long centralization sort of thing, again, for the good of the game. We've got all this money basically on this side of this side of the hockey world. And I know if Gina was sitting here and Mel in a given year would say, hey, we didn't have enough money to do what we wanted to do. And I understand that attitude, because it's like our North American attitude is, it's kind of never enough and there's always something else you can do. But it would be great if they could find a way to kind of help, and they're doing lots, but help support the other federations in a more significant financial way for the good of the game, because I think it would be terrific. It was definitely a real struggle with Denmark for sure, and the federation deserves a lot of credit for, going way, way, way above and beyond what they've done, particularly for the female team in our time there, and it really benefited us in a huge way, a really huge way. Even though, again, it's never enough. So it is a real challenge, You're muted, Wally.
Yeah, I got it. Anyone else got any comments? Great thoughts, Tim. I don't know that societies ready to share funding for the good of society and the good of the game. But it's a brilliant concept, and I think the bottom line is everyone's philosophy. Um, and I really believe that Phil Jackson said it best, is that your opponent, whether it's the Czech Republic and the USA or Canada and the USA, they're partners in the dance. And your job and their job is to make each other better. And that doesn't mean just on the score clock, because in trying to be the winner on the score clock, the effort you put in, the teamwork you create, the belief you transmit, the work ethic, everything that goes into being able to achieve a goal is why you do what you're doing. So back to that quote, Thomas, that you're familiar with, that was in my office at the Oval. You know, a gold medal is a wonderful thing, but if you're not enough without it, you're never going to be enough with it. And so deep down, I think you have to really appreciate the depth of what you're doing and the impact you're having on the young people and women that you're coaching, and feel good about that, because that's what you're trying to accomplish. And if you do things the right way, you've got a chance, a greater chance of success. And getting people to buy into it is a huge thing. And I think that, for me, was one of the reasons I could stay at Hockey Canada that long, because that's where I got the philosophy of why I'm coaching, and was provided and created in my experience at the Oval in the first year.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, really good comments, Wally. And you know, these discussions about, you know, how you use your personnel in an artful balance. There's a lot, as Carla said, you can slice it a million ways, but it really does come down to, you know, your basic term, Wally, to always keep in the forefront of your mind, to transmit belief in your players, all of your players, and to find value in all your players and help them and really make it a coaching directive or coaching a goal for yourself to help them feel valued as players. That doesn't mean that the bottom, if it's a three-line team, if the bottom two forwards, 8 and 9, or on a four-line team, the, you know, 10, 11, 12, it doesn't mean they have to play equal amounts, but you have to find a role for them. You have to help them feel that they are valued. And that's why, getting back to, I think Hal mentioned, you know, verbally recognizing and acknowledging the block shots, which are a little bit more self-evident, and the bench generally recognizes those on their own. But verbally, as a coach, acknowledging a great back check, or a great puck race, or a great battle, or whatever it is, a really good example of communication on the ice. If you actively look for those things and verbally acknowledge them very specifically on the bench, or my approach is always, in addition to that, in intermissions, always kind of start with 2 or 3 acknowledgements of really positive contributions. And it's not the goals. It's like the shot blocks. It's like the timely save by a goalie. It's a back check. It's a battle. It's a race. If you openly acknowledge those, and then those players can feel more value and feel valued. And in the bargain, you support your own philosophy that those kind of things, well, they either win games or help win games. You still need your skill maybe to win games in some situations, but being hard to play against and being in control of those effort area things, that was the focus for us with the Danish team, because the players all control those effort areas. And Carly, you might remember we had that effort area chart way back in the day that we kind of put together from, it was from not Phil Jackson, but Pat Riley's book Showtime. And I've sort of morphed it over the years, and we used it with the Danish team. We're going to use it with my Hockey Alberta Cup team that I'm mentoring this month. So effort areas are the key, and everybody can contribute there. And that's where a lot of the coaching focus really should be on a healthy team, I think.
Tim, I totally agree with what you've said. I'm just going to take it to coaches in general that are coaching teams anywhere, at any level, at any time. The feedback on being able to point out the specific of, you brought up the players who might not be your stars, your third, fourth line shot blockers. But I think coaching in general, that's one thing out of respect, but it can't be condescending. It's got to be a part of specific feedback, getting available for a pass, timing, communication in game situations. And I'm not sure who it was I talked to, but when their players on their bench, and I think it was Carla, starts saying those specific things on the bench, they're coaching. And I think, Carla, what you created at the Edge was a culture where everybody believed, and then you provided the specific feedback and allowed them to play with a degree of freedom in decision making that was pretty awesome for the results you got there. I wonder, Carla, if you could add anything to that.
No, I think it's exactly what Tim's saying. I think it's what we're all trying to do. You're trying to shape your group, and you're trying to be creative in how you do it, because the belief, as you've always said, well, it has to come from within the group, and we're doing our darndest to fake that belief until they get there. And yeah, I was just in all honesty, you guys, I just got tired of writing like 3 keys to success. And I was like, well, when is back checking no longer a key to success? It's just something we do every game. So I was trying to figure out in my head, how do we make that become a little bit more of a habitual thing and just our style of play versus a key to winning that one game. And that's what kind of got me onto this path at Edge, where I just, for that age group, I actually just made like a little puzzle. And, I had the word back pressure on it, had different pieces to the puzzle, kind of the traits that we thought were important. And what I liked about the activity, and I didn't do it the whole year, I just did it the back half and the latter part of the back half, was I let the group discuss whether or not we had executed that trait to our level and at a consistency that we were proud of, that we thought it could get back on. And all that did is it allowed them. So Thomas, you think about that conversation afterwards, it had them looking through the lens that I thought, and we thought maybe collectively, was a healthier lens to look at the game through. So it got them talking about a good F3. It got them talking about, owning the eyes of the goalie. It got them to watch the game differently and consistently within those, sort of eight, 9 traits that we had going. And so I think for a younger group in particular, as these kids were, it just showed them to better understand it wasn't just goals and it wasn't just the offense. It was those all the traits mattered. So, I've shared that sort of activity with a lot of coaches that are in the minor hockey ranks, because I think there's a value there, a teaching component, so they learn the game a little bit differently. But the point that I'm kind of hung up in my brain, Wally, is just when I think of the national team, and kind of to Thomas's question there, like, it crushes me, Thomas, that you're in a 1-1 hockey game and that's the energy that's being brought into your room by a player. And that's the challenge in the game I think we all face, is how I don't understand how, like, so many teams self-inflict harm on them, and I don't get it. And I don't know the answer, but that's what I've been thinking about on the couch here, Thomas, is just like, how does that happen? Like, you're at the biggest game of your career in a great opportunity, and we choose to go negative. And that's the side of I think the challenge on national teams is the ego side. And I know I complained a lot when I was on the national team. So I am definitely not throwing stones at this player. I just, when we can get that out of the game, I think it's going to be magical. So sorry that I detoured there, Wally. That's just where my brain's been for the last little bit after that short snippet with Thomas.
Well, Carla, you made me think of a book title, Ego is the Enemy. And that's a perfect example of it, that player in that situation that would think of themselves after really what they achieved was remarkable. So, down the road here, I've talked to Thomas at length about coming on, and Thomas has worked with Daryl Belfry, and Daryl's helped a bit with Thomas and the team, the Czech Republic, and experimenting with different things in a unique way. And the way Thomas's team played was remarkable. And I think everybody with hockey knowledge appreciates how the team played. And it has to do with the way Thomas coached and allowed players to play and possess the puck and do things with it without fear. So Thomas mentioned when he's up to it, might be next week or the week after, putting a little video together of his choosing to talk about how he approached the team and how he made some of those things happen. It would just be remarkable for us to have that opportunity. So, Carla, your experience at the U of C and what you're learning there, that's another story down the road. And I just think it's just so great to having both of you on. Now, Tim, your hand's up. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Wally. I just wanted to echo those sentiments. Like, Thomas from afar, like I know a lot of hockey people were really, really impressed with the level of play of your Czech team. Did a tremendous job. And it's really the cruelest of ironies that you were so close twice, both in the World Championship. You really should have beaten Finland and gotten to the semifinals. And really cruel irony that you got so close against the U.S. in Beijing and managed to score on yourself both times through just bad coaching, Thomas, to coach your team to scoring yourself at critical times. But, hockey and life can be that way where it kicks you in the teeth. And we always used to talk with the Danish girls when we had not quite as cruel a fate bestowed on us, but the hockey gods challenge you as coaches and teams at times with heartbreaking disappointment. And those hockey gods want to find out if the team is up to pushing through those challenges and eventually breaking through. And it's really heartbreaking for me to know that you won't be there when that happens. I still see it as a great possibility in the near future where they will break through. And, I don't know if I shared this with you. I don't think so, but it was interesting. And psychology is so important, as we all know. But, I think it was the day before the U.S. game, maybe 2 days before, I bumped into Elena, and one of the other players, wasn't sure who it was. And I know Elena well, as you know. And I said, hey, good luck against the U.S. You can beat those guys, And both she and the other player looked at me like I had a square head or I had 12 eyes or something. And they both said, really? You think so? And I said, absolutely. Hey, you got to get good goaltending. You know that. like you guys all got to play your asses off and be really hard to play against, and you got to get a little bit of puck luck, but it can happen. And I mean, you should know that we just did it to you guys, and that's the only way it happened. You totally, in lots of ways, deserved to win the game based on scoring chances, but it's the belief that you can make it happen that is often the separator. Like I always used to think about, even, I don't know where you felt, Carla, but back in the day, Finland and Sweden, I felt like Finland had a little bit of that belief that if they played a gritty, hard defensive game, they might have a chance. Of course, they had a world-class goalie, and so did Sweden. But I didn't think that Peter's Swedish group had the same belief. I just thought they thought we can't beat Canada no matter what we do. And that belief is so critical to a team. And it's part of our job as coaches, of course, to to sell that belief and, sometimes fake it till you make it sort of thing. But you always got to believe it. Always. So it's too bad, Thomas, really, that you won't be around, I guess, when that happens, but I think it's going to happen, and just wanted to acknowledge the great job you did, and it was fun to watch you guys practice even, let alone play games. So really, really, really good job. And Carla, interestingly, sorry, Wally, did you what would your view as a player have been of Finland and Sweden back in the day? Because that was certainly my belief that we had to play well to beat them for sure. And if we were off our game, I really felt that they were skilled enough, skated well enough that they could beat us.
Yeah, I a few thoughts on that. And again, sorry, I know Wally, your hand's up. I think for when I was playing with those teams, I actually always felt Finland played not to lose by 4 or more, and that's why like they weren't naturally very offensively a threat ever. They just clogged their own zone, as we saw. I thought Sweden, when they had the puck, tried to score more on us than Finland. I don't think it resulted that way, but I thought there was an energy that way. But you talk about the psychology. I never understood Peter's choice of words and how he talked about his team in front of other teams. And that was something I've kind of carried with me throughout it too, is like, you everything you say, you have to assume your team's hearing it. And Peter always admired Canada and the US a little too much, in my opinion, as the coach of another team. But I always had respect for both of those teams. I think they both had huge talent levels, but I never felt Finland. I like watching them now. I think they try to win a little bit more now than they did back in our day, where they kind of just try to hold on to not lose by a lot, is what I naturally felt. I don't know if that's what you saw, Tim, but that's what I felt.
Yeah, and I would agree with those comments. And I actually, even Thomas, before you took over with the women in Czech, I was really impressed with them. Yeah, it would be like, I think 4 years ago now at Worlds when they played Finland. Same thing. They played with courage and bravery, if you want to use those terms. They, as Peter likes to say, they dared to play instead of just, sitting back and hoping something would happen. They tried to make things happen, and I think that's a fun way to play for the players. Of course, there's a balance there when you're against a really strong opponent, but I thought there was some of that in the team even back then, and you helped get them to even another level. But yeah, that's a whole other area. Sorry, Wally, you've had your hand up for a bit. Just wanted to interject that.
No, I'm really glad both you and Carla got to speak on that, because it's my question was Thomas, and it came up yesterday. He had talked about, we talked about how his team played and how he got them to play that way. And Tim, you used the words, a couple of words about describing the team. I'm throwing another a word out there. They played with confidence with the puck. And Thomas shared a story about catching the USA off guard in terms of how he coached them to approach playing them. Can you share that, Thomas?
Well, like we knew that, just like Tim said, that, hey, first period, we are not going to get out of our zone very much. They're going to pressure us. But I did watch a lot of Switzerland and Russia and Finland playing against the US. And basically what it is, the US has the puck all the time. They pressure. And when the teams get the puck, they dump it out, they throw it out, they chip it out. And the US gets the puck back and they re-attack. So they are used to playing against teams that are weaker than them with the puck, and then they get the puck back. The opponents are tired, they chip it out, they get off the glass. So whether it's Finland or whether it's Switzerland or Russia, those teams, they didn't attack very much. And, we said, listen, we're going to play a lot of defensive zone coverage. And, we had a good plan for that, how we're going to play it. But when we get the puck, we're going to play as much as possible our game. So that means we're going to pass the puck. We're going to exit the zone with possession. We're going to enter the zone, their zone with possession. If we don't see a clear chance to enter the zone, we're going to turn back and pass it back to our D. If we can change when we have the puck, we'll change with as much as of our philosophy as possible. We're going to do it. And I think to a certain point, we succeeded with that, and the U.S. was not used to it. And as much as the shot differential was huge, and as much they spent a lot of time in our zone, when we got the puck, we didn't behave the same way most teams do in the same situation, and that is to get rid of the puck again, to get it out, to get a change, to chip out. We wanted to play with the puck, and we wanted them to chase us. We wanted them to forecheck us. We wanted, just play as much as possible our game. That was it. And I think to a certain extent, that was successful.
I'm sorry I didn't get to actually see the game, Thomas, because we were flying back to on our way back to Copenhagen. But it was pretty exciting. We got to Helsinki, I think, and saw the line score, and it was deep into the game, and it was a 1-goal game, and I was like, yeah, I've been meaning to go back and watch it actually, but anyway, good times.
Yeah.
To some extent.
Thomas, I wanted to share this story with you and with Carla. I coached the Japanese women in 1998, and it was a pleasure. But when I approached playing Canada USA, all I worked on was defense, and we were 0-0 after the first period because we coached defense. In the second period, we couldn't change because the puck was in our end all the time. The players were exhausted, and that's where the score went to 7-0 in the second. And then in the third, they might have added 2 or 3. But I actually had to practice in our zone, players falling on pucks to get a whistle, create a pile. So what amazed me, you played your offensive game, and I think the players, they pass better than any team, American, Canada, you name it. The puck did the work, and they felt confident. That's the word. You gave them confidence to do that. But how the hell did they play so well in your defensive zone? Can you explain that?
Well, we just played, we had they just followed we had a simple rules. I mean, when the puck was in the corner, we had 5 people there, And then after that, we just said, you know, we got to play 5 one-on-ones and you stay with your player no matter where she goes. So, and that was it. I mean, it was very two simple things. We never practiced defensive zone coverage in the 2 years too much, just on videos. We practiced a lot of defensive zone coverage transitions from D zone to offense. We did a lot of drills for that. But to be honest with you, we just practiced a little bit of D zone the day before we played the US. That was the only time we practiced it. And they just knew that they had to stop and start and stay with their players. And that was actually the first comment that Danielle Sauvigeau, she was there after the game, and she said she spoke with the US players and they said they had no time, they had no space. And that was their comment. So our girls did a phenomenal job just staying with their man on the puck and off the puck. And when the puck was in the corner, we were really, really good at having 5 people right there. So even our net D was really close to the battle. Our weak side winger was at the hash marks. We took away the boards. We didn't want US to pass free passes from the corner to the point. So we had basically defensive zone coverage. Our strong side winger was on the boards, just like a regular winger on the breakout. We wanted to take that away right away. So that was it, like no secret really. And just our girls did a really good job skating with them and skating with them. They are a great skilled team. They skate really well. They have better skills than we do. They skate better than we do. But in terms of 2-3 players playing together, 4 players playing together, I didn't think they were that creative. So if we were able to stay with the puck carrier and the closest player, there was not much. I mean, you watch the game, I mean, they were still in our zone most of the time. Listen, guys, like it was not like it was a 50-50 game. It was not like that. But, and they had a lot of shots. But at the same time, I thought for the first time ever, we played Canada or United States. We've never played them before in the history of Czech hockey. To be after 49 or 50 minutes 1-1, I think we did pretty good.
No doubt about that.
Amen.
Like I really think for any listeners that might tap into this presentation, we're approaching 2 hours, Thomas. Everybody on the call is committed and crazy. And I'm sure glad Carl has joined us and Dominic. But the work you've done there, I really believe, and Daryl Belfry's been on with us often, and at some point in the future, having you on with Daryl and talking about the work you did, or like you say, some of the specific work you did. I'm always old school and defense first, D-zone cover first, play without the puck first. But boy, the coin's flipped in my mind now when you can defend in your zone that well, focusing on offensive hockey and having them play that well in their end, and that well in the whole ice, because you possessed the puck and passed it. It wasn't risky, but it was just possession. You played a possession game to the ability of your team. And I think that's the way the game's got to go in the future. And especially on the female side, it can grow.
Maybe we have to look at puck possession as a way of defending.
Yeah, I think that's...
So you keep the puck and that's your defense.
Yeah.
So you are tired and you don't want to dump it in. You just make a tight turn or a delay on the offensive blue line and you pass it back to your goalie or you pass it back to your D. And we did it on penalty kill quite a bit. We didn't want to have the power play unit. If we could, of course. Sometimes we didn't touch the puck, but if we could, we wanted to possess the puck on the penalty kill too. it's just a mind shift. It's a shift of thinking. It's a paradigm shift. You possess and then the other thing happens. The team who plays against you and you don't touch the puck. When you touch it, you don't have confidence with the puck. So you give it away again. So you get the puck back. So there is a psychological thing about puck possession too.
Carla.
No, I was sorry, Wally. I was that's a really interesting. I mean, it's not. It's a really interesting idea, sort of approach, Thomas, that you took in that game, because I think it makes total sense. Of course, the proof is in the pudding when you go to execute, and you need players obviously to make good decisions in good situations, because like all things hockey wise, yeah, you got to give the puck up sometimes, for the benefit of the team as a whole to get a change or whatever it is. But very interesting to hear you talk about that, and it is a very interesting approach. And I would love to, as Wally has suggested, I'd love to get you and Daryl together some week and just talk about your work together with the Czech team, because as I said, it was fun to watch you guys practice. I'd love to do that sometime. And we don't need to do it right now, but I wanted to. I've got to get going in the next few minutes myself. But I was wondering if I didn't know if Carla had a chance to watch all the U Sport Championship stuff, and a comment on that. I got to watch a handful of the games, and before doing that, hats off to a couple of Hockey Canada alums, Carol Ouellette with her partner Julie winning the national championship, and Nadine Muzzerall on the other side of the border winning the NCAA championship. Hockey. And then we look at Bots and Cassie, Sammy, yourself, Carla, all over Poundy, all over the TV analysis at different times. It's great to see all of you contributing back to the game, but I wondered if you had a comment on the recent U Sport Championship. Or did you get to see any?
No, I had COVID, so I watched it all.
Oh,
Nothing better to do, so I was streaming it like it was my job. I can't wait to hear more about Thomas too, and about that experience. So I'm with you, Tim. I think there's lots there, and look forward to that day for sure. The U Sport, you know what? It's 1,000 thoughts again, but maybe the one thing that poignantly stood out was just the importance again of special teams in those short-term moments. And I think that helped Concordia, and they had a good group, they had a good team. That you could see they were in a pretty good spot collectively. They look like the best team there. But I think the special teams, particularly the power play, let a few programs down in those key moments. So again, how do you get the timing out of that, and that $1 million question there? But I certainly enjoyed the hockey. It was fun to watch it. It's fun to sort of see, okay, that's where I want to get my program one day. So just watching those teams and what they do well. It was great hockey, and it's great to see that U Sport continues to improve and grow, and it was exciting.
yeah, it was real good hockey. I enjoyed watching all the games. I watched, Margot and Sask, and some of the Concordia Sask game as well. And, it was real good hockey. People always want to point out the lack of goal scoring, which we know is an ongoing problem on the female side. But it was good hockey, well played hockey, and well coached hockey. You could clearly see. So it was fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Wally?
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of highlight, something that I think is going on. We're witnessing the evolution of the game, and it starts with the NHL in terms of the speed, the skill, and the hockey sense they show with the puck. It's really evolving, and having Carla and Tim talk about things, I'm curious what kind of takeaways, Michael Bonelli, in your situation, these conversations, we're talking about girls hockey, we're talking about the Olympics, we're talking about this unique way, this transition in allowing players to think for themselves. And Dominic, in your situation, working with girls, the idea of the freedom to play, and I know 2 years ago you talked about that. Thomas, you're still on, but my initial thing that I appreciated about you when you were coaching the pro team in Calgary was how they played. They visibly were playing a possession game. And it took a while maybe for them to get to that. But my question would be to Mike and Dominic, what kind of takeaways from this entire session would apply for you? Mike?
Yeah, well, I actually, to Thomas's point with the possession game, so I try to show my kids a lot of the video of the NHL 3-on-3 and how just that mindset, right? They have to change their mindset because they don't dump the puck in and they don't take bad shots because they have time, right? Even at that level, they have the time to regroup and think. And if we can get players now, and my conversations with the kids is always, well, we're just adding 2 more players. So why can't we still have that? Like, I watch hundreds and hundreds of hours of breakout drills every day, and I've yet to see a breakout at 12U. I never see it. Like, I never see a kid come up the boards and other kids slide through the middle, the defense come up, make a pass, break it out. But also conversely, I never see, after all the regroups that I see 5-on-5, you don't see a player get to the blue line, see that there's no play to make, move the puck back to the D, regroup in their own zone, and try to come out again at where I am in our region. And I think when you see NHL 3-on-3, it opens up the possibility for the kids to see how much that possession game is the best defense. Because that's the only way, once you give that puck up, the likelihood of that player being able to jump. So I love those, I think those examples of possession is actually defense is just hard. Because Wally, I think it all comes back down to the same thing, though, for where I am. There is zero patience for parents to go through the process of development. And one of the things I was going to bring up earlier in the call was that we all, I don't know, everything's focused on development. But in my world, it's just about, well, it's all about fun. It's like, well, I don't even care if a kid develops ever. I mean, in most of the youth hockey programs I work with, I just want to know that they're playing. And eventually them playing and having fun and just enjoying life being in the rink, it doesn't have to, we all go to the common denominator of it has to equal some kind of a championship, or it has to equal a flight somewhere to Chicago, or it has to equal something else other than just loving being there. And I think Hal brought it up earlier that the kids that will become the players of tomorrow, that will be the players we want to develop, will do that because they love being in the rink.
I would add to it that when you have the philosophy of possessing, it automatically develops your skills. Because when you tell guys, we're gonna play 3-on-3 and you're never gonna give up the puck, or 5-on-5, you quickly discover what skill shortage you have or what lack of skill you have. It automatically teaches you puck protection. It teaches you carrying the puck on the forehand. It teaches you not to stick handle. It teaches you to skate. It teaches you to skate to the middle. It truly, what collaborating with Daryl has taught me, that it's not skill and then individual tactics and then team tactics and then you have your picture. It's the other way around. You have to have a philosophy how you want to play. And I wanted for our girls, I said, girls, if somebody comes to the rink within 2 minutes, I want them to know the Czech national team is practicing, the Czech national team is playing the game, even though they don't know the jerseys. And by setting the number one the thing was like, we are never going to give up the puck. And like Tim said, of course you will give up the puck. But it was so clear, and it was teaching us immediately, okay, well, not to give up the puck, I have to stop stick handle. Not to give up the puck, I have to put the puck on my forehand. Well, I have to protect it here. I have to learn how to tight turn on both sides. So it suddenly brought up 20 things that we had to work on. Instead of approaching it, well, we're going to work on these skills, and then eventually we're going to get to some end result. Start with the big picture, and then it filters down what to work on. So that was, in very short, my experience, what it does if you have a clear philosophy.
Thanks, Thomas. Really appreciate that. Dominic, your takeaways.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more on the possession piece. I think, you know, I definitely think that it's the way that the game needs to be played, and the way that, you know, whether it's with my high school team or the girls team, or what I've seen being successful at the minor league level. It's to me, it's the way the game's played, but I wholeheartedly agree with Thomas in regards to the mindset. You know, and it's about breaking that from my side. It's trying to break, you know, I guess the coaching that they've had, the chip and chase type of thing, and you know, chip to speed and stretch, and you know, keeping it out of the middle, and it's, you know, and again, it's very, very prevalent in all these ages. So, you know, I love hearing about it. I love hearing the different ways that you know, you guys are portraying that in the different messaging, and I just, to me, you know, in my experience, you know, especially going, you know, to Europe after half of my career, and just seeing how inverse it was, especially at that time, like early, you know, 2000s, how there was such a difference in the way the game's played. Now I see it's getting closer and closer from the European, and I mean, it's not, obviously the rink size makes a difference, but there's way more similarities now into the way the game's played, and I love it. I think it's fantastic because it just involves so much more thinking and thought process, like Thomas talked about. You know, getting to the middle of the ice, keeping it on your forehand, all these different types of things. So to me, I love it. I just, you know, really enjoy, you know, hearing you guys talking about it.
I think Tim and Wally left.
I'll say one thing about, just like, you know, I know I get on the floorball kick all the time, but that was always my goal with the young kids when I introduce it, is to show that, like, in floorball and even when the kids play street ball, right? They never dump it. They never dump and chase. Like, you don't see a kid take the ball and throw it down the court. They want to hold on to it, and I think that's to me that. But it's a mentality. Like, even I tried to introduce a league here in New York at 10U. So at 10U in the U.S., the kids play full ice. You know, the full use of the rink, and it's such a fight from 8U cross ice for them to then say, "Oh my God, you know, we all want to get to full ice. That's the goal." So I've been trying to institute leagues down here where because we want them to have the ability to still learn possession and have more space, is to then try to get the leagues to help the organizations and parents have the freedom to say, okay, well, for the first quarter of the league, it's all going to be 3-on-3, and then migrate into full ice 5-on-5, and allow those players to see that, okay, with all this space, you never have to chip the puck in and dump it down, and get in more like a roller hockey philosophy. Like, there is no red line. You could dump, if you wanted to dump it in and throw it away, I guess you could do that. But the minute you throw it away, you've got to go all the way down there to go get it again. And I think that's where I just think we do a disservice from a league perspective and from an organizational perspective, that we don't give the teams the freedom to teach possession and teach freedom, because we throw them into September saying, you don't have any time to develop your kids. And if you lose your first 12 games, you're probably not making the playoffs in your league. So it results in kids needing to just you take your lowest common denominator kid and get them to throw the puck out and just breathe when they get off the ice if they didn't give up a goal. So it's our fault, our collective fault, as much as it is any the individual players not being able to progress.
Yeah,
I think I agree, Mike, and coaching direction and languaging and everything is really important. And the NHL game is a possession game now, and there's tons of benefit to it, obviously offensively and defensively. There's an artful balance there as well. There's going to be situations where it's really better to give up possession, but you don't want that to be the default thinking of your players, is to dump it out, dump it in. I don't really believe. And I had a really interesting conversation with the head coach of the Alberta Cup team I'm going to be mentoring this month, because they the staff put together their sort of coaching habits and values, direction, and one of the ones was they wanted to be a possession team, and they wanted to play fast, 2 catchwords in the game now. And one of the notes said, look north, move it north. They wanted to play a north-south game. So my question to him was, is that going to be a directive that you want your first play to go north all the time? And he said, yeah, well, we want to play fast. I said, well, is that really what you want? If you want to be a possession team, you want everybody, and specifically I said, do you want me as a defenseman really only thinking about going north? How does that fit with being a possession team if you're going north all the time, no matter whether it creates an advantage for your team or not? Like, it goes back to the Tarasov thing, where the biggest thing in hockey is, when you move the puck, you're trying to create an advantage for your team. And part of that is, if the north-south pass doesn't create an advantage, then the east-west pass to your partner as a defenseman becomes a critical part of forming a possession attack. And same thing with, as Thomas was saying, if you don't have support and you've got a little bit of time, and you're not going to be able to possess if you enter the zone, maybe you turn back and give it back to the D and learn to reform the attack again. So as coaches, we have to be careful about all the buzzwords and the catchy phrases that, hey, we want to play fast. And I remember actually, Thomas, I think, having the same conversation with you about, I think, Brianne Jenner. If we can, this would be 5 years ago, I was watching one of the Inferno games, I think, and she coming back towards her D zone, coming out of the offensive zone, she collected a loose puck, like just around the dot area, and immediately turned to re-attack. And I was sitting there thinking that the better play in that situation would have been the bump back to her D, because the D can see the whole ice, and it would allow people that were just emerging from the offensive zone to actually be part of the attack, instead of her just turning back right away and re-attacking. And now 2 of her line mates are going back towards their own net. She's going on offense by herself. So, but her response, I think, was, well, we want to play fast. Well, what does that mean? It means move the puck quickly and possess the puck and make it hard for the other team. It doesn't always necessarily mean turning and going north right away. And I saw that to a fault with our U18 team about 17 or 18 or 7 or 8 years ago, playing down in Minnesota, where the US team was playing a true possession game, and we were just going north all the time to no advantage. And their coaching philosophy was, well, we want to play fast. We want to go north-south. Well, you know what? You're getting dominated because the other team's got the puck all the time, and you're just throwing it up and to no advantage. So
I think we could spend a whole nother day on just like really explaining what does it mean possession, what does it mean fast, like what like if we would go around. I mean, we've been here for 2.5 hours, but what does it mean for you possession hockey? Like what does it mean for you to play fast? What does it mean to go north all the time? What does it mean quick transition? All these buzzwords. For each of us, it would probably mean a little bit something different. It would be interesting conversation.
love to do that. Get Daryl on too. And Carla, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Well, that's where I was going with it too, Thomas. I chuckle because it's all important. It's the time and the place of any of it, isn't it? And I think that's why the game's so dynamic. So I apologize here, guys. I have to jump off, but I just wanted to say thank you. And it was a treat to see everyone again and to meet Mike and see Dominic again. So again, Wally, thanks for the invite. And as always, yes, Mr. Malloy, I'll reply to your email here too shortly. But great seeing you guys. And again, thanks for including me in the conversation. Much appreciated.
Carla, nice hat.
Yeah, I did it for you guys.
Yeah,
Nice
look at that. Yeah.
Hey, I know my audience.
Oval
There is-
Extreme Wally.
There is the Red Army of women's hockey.
You got it.
Yeah, good analogy there. I got to jump off too, guys. And likewise, great to have you join us, Carla. And Thomas, great to see you and hope you can join us again. Dom, good to see you too. It's been a while. And
Thanks,
Mike,
guys.
I see you
Thanks,
every
guys.
week, which is tremendous as well.